Mauritius's trade deficit narrowing by 16.3%. That's to 6.32 billion rupees in April. That's from a year earlier. To unpack the trade figures, we're joined on the line by Mark O'Sullivan, Chief Executive Officer at Ireland Premier Global Markets. Mark, thanks for joining us. So if you look at that export amount, basically Mauritius at this point in time exporting roughly half of the total amount that it imports, and imports sitting at roughly around 6.7 or the exports rather sitting at 6.7 billion rupees. If you had to look at the dynamics playing out in the key export markets, I mean, what are the key trends that you're seeing so far for 2013?
Yeah, good afternoon, Samantha. Well, obviously the key export markets for Mauritius are the historical ones. They're still into mainland Europe, and the UK is still our biggest trading partner. Certainly textiles has been a major market, and actually Mauritius is actually gaining ground and taking business from the traditional Far East, because we can now sell at a lower cost base. So certainly I would say in the last 12 months that the trend for exporting textiles has probably got back on track to the growth levels where it should be. But I think the real story about Mauritius is you need to look at it as a whole, and the other kind of export-led industries that we're trying to push and grow, so there's no longer the reliance on the traditional sugar and obviously tourism industries, which is obviously big here, but obviously coming under pressure in the global economy.
I mean, one of the new emerging areas and growth areas is the medical sector. How well is Kenya doing when it comes to medical exports?
Yeah, well, I think you have to divide that into two. You have to be very kind of honest and say, listen, there's a big market for what you call the cosmetic surgery, where people obviously can come to Mauritius, get their nips and tucks done at fairly reasonable rates, and then relax on the beach. And that is a market that has continued to grow. But on the more serious side, a big market has been exporting or importing rather patients from East Africa, particularly Madagascar, into the medical systems in Mauritius. And we're now getting about 15,000 patients coming to Mauritius every year for major surgery. And you know, there's a big push that by 2020, 100,000 patients a year will come to Mauritius, use the medical services here, and recuperate, and it could lead to $1 billion a year flowing back into the country. So it certainly is a big market. You know, there are state-of-the-art medical facilities in Mauritius, and there are certainly growing African countries that will quite happily look to send their population there for major medical surgery.
So we're looking at basically growing business between Mauritius and Africa, and of course we know Mauritius is wanting to position itself as the gateway into Africa. It's got competition from Nigeria, it's got competition certainly from South Africa, but that's the goal there. When you look at the trade numbers right now, who are the major trading partners for Mauritius in Africa?
Yeah, I think the gateway to Africa is a fast-moving story. What I would say is certainly if you look at now countries excluding South Africa, I'd put South Africa to one side for a second. I would certainly say Zimbabwe, Zambia, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Mozambique. You know, the Mauritian economy is big, but it's small enough to reinvent itself fairly quickly, and certainly in the financial services sector, I've seen certainly in the last 2 to 3 years those markets being targeted successfully, not just in the offshore banking market, but in direct financial services and supplying products to those markets.